In the heart of the whispering emerald wood, where sunlight danced like scattered gold through the leaves, 3 friends set out at first light. Arya moved with the grace of a deer, her sharp eyes scanning every shadow. Beside her strode Bram, broad-shouldered and steady, reading the forest as easily as a map. Young Quill brought up the rear, his clever fingers brushing ferns to check their bent stems. They had sworn to protect their valley, and today that meant finding the rumored orc army before it drew any closer. The woods grew thicker as they traveled, yet the friends slipped through them like wind through tall grass. Arya scaled a lightning-split oak and signaled silently from above, guiding them around noisy brambles. Bram knelt often to study the earth, tracing deep footprints that spoke of many heavy boots. Quill noted the silence of the birds and the faint, rhythmic thudding that trembled through the roots beneath their feet. Their shared years of scouting had taught them to move as one, turning danger into a game of wits and stealth. By midday they reached the crest of a fern-covered ridge. There, half hidden behind a curtain of ivy, the friends peered down into a wide clearing. A great host of orcs marched in orderly ranks, their green banners rippling like a river of leaves. Campfires smoked gently in the distance while captains pointed the way forward with long wooden staves. The sight sent a shiver of awe through the trio. Not fear, but the electric thrill of discovery. Arya touched her friend's shoulders, and without a word they melted back into the trees. As they retraced their steps toward home, the forest seemed to cheer them on with rustling branches and birdsong returned. They carried news that would keep their valley safe, and the promise of another adventure already sparkled in their eyes. The forest path unwound beneath a bruised twilight sky, trees leaning close like conspirators. Arya walked with her usual quiet grace, bow unstrung, but an arrow already fitted to the string. Beside her, Bram hummed an old marching song, the sound rumbling from his barrel chest as he balanced a brace of forest cats across one shoulder. Quill moved ahead of them, boots barely disturbing the leaves, his sharp eyes flicking between the shadows. After 3 days of tracking and clean kills, the air felt light, almost forgiving. The attack came without warning. A war spear punched through the ferns and buried itself in the trail, inches from Quill's foot. Then the orcs rose, 7, maybe 8, grey-green hides streaked with ash, eyes glowing like hot coals. The air filled with the wet smell of their breath and the iron ring of drawn steel. Arya's first arrow took one through the throat before Bram roared and swung his axe in a wide, glittering arc. For a moment, the 3 of them fought as they always had, back to back, seamless, deadly. But the numbers were too great. Quill felt a meaty hand close on his cloak. He twisted like an eel, slashed his short blade across the orc's wrist, and broke free. "Run!" Arya shouted, voice already tightening as ropes bit into her arms. Bram was on his knees, blood on his temple, still snarling curses while 3 of the brutes wrestled him down. Quill's heart tore in 2 directions, but he knew the math. He dove sideways into the undergrowth, branches clawing his face, and did the only thing he could. He ran. The forest became a blur of pain and panic. Roots tried to trip him, low branches whipped blood across his cheeks. Behind him, the victory howls of the orcs faded, replaced by the thunder of his own pulse. By the time the city's lanterns pricked the horizon, his lungs were raw fire. He did not slow. The gates loomed, the night watch turning at the sound of frantic footfalls. Quill burst into the torchlight of the Adventurers' Guild Hall, chest heaving, voice cracking like a boy's. "Orcs on the North Ridge path. They have Arya and Bram." He slammed both bloodied hands onto the long oak table where steel-eyed veterans sat. "If we move now, we can still catch them." Lanterns hissed, chairs scraped back, and in the sudden, purposeful silence, Quill felt the weight of every second his friends had left. In the blood-soaked clearing deep within the Blackthorn wilds, torchlight flickered across a ring of crude tents and snarling orc warriors. Bram knelt in the dirt, wrists raw from ropes, his once proud scout's shoulders squared in defiance, even as the chieftain raised a rusted axe. The blade fell with a wet thud. His head struck the ground beside the fire, eyes still open, staring at nothing. Arya screamed against the gag in her mouth, the sound swallowed by guttural laughter. The 2 friends who had hunted beside her for years, one gone forever in an instant. They dragged her forward into the fire's glow. Her leathers, shredded during the ambush and the brutal march that followed, clung in torn ribbons. A strip of fabric barely covered her breasts, another hung useless from her hip, exposing the pale curve of her thigh and the bloodied scrapes along her ribs. The orc circled closer, yellow eyes gleaming with hunger. One shoved her onto her back atop a filthy pelt, its clawed hand already tearing at what little cloth remained. The stink of their bodies choked the night air. She felt hot breath on her neck and the weight of a heavy knee forcing her legs apart. A silver shaft of moonlight pierced the canopy above the ridge. There stood the elven archer, cloak stirring like liquid shadow, bow already drawn. His face was coldly beautiful, high cheekbones, long dark hair threaded with starlight, eyes sharp as arrowheads. He loosed. The first arrow took the chieftain through the eye socket with a crisp snap. Before the body hit the dirt, 3 more orcs dropped in rapid succession, each fletched shaft buried to the feather in a brutish skull. The remaining warriors roared and scrambled for weapons, but the elf moved like moonlight itself, stepping, drawing, releasing, until the camp fell into sudden, ringing silence broken only by the crackle of dying fires. He descended the slope without haste, boots silent on the moss. A final orc lunged at him. The elf pivoted, drove an arrow up under the creature's jaw, and stepped past the falling corpse. Kneeling beside Arya, he cut her bonds with a slender knife. She gasped as the ropes fell away, arms trembling, torn clothing fluttering in the night breeze. For a moment their eyes met, his calm and ancient, hers wide with shock and grief. He offered his cloak, draping it around her shoulders with careful hands. "Come," he whispered, voice low and melodic. "The forest still has 2 of us left to carry." Together they slipped between the trees, leaving the slaughtered camp and the body of their fallen friend behind, 2 shadows guided by cold moonlight and the long habit of survival.